This is my wife, 2012 Cayenne S. Recently we noticed there's a little puddle of coolant dripping from the front driver side, and so I was trying to determine what's the source of the coolant leak. And as you can see here, this is where she usually park, and that's kind of where the drip starts. The drip was fairly minor, but still somewhat troublesome. So there aren't that much information on the internet about how to fix a newer model Cayenne. So I want to make this piece of video just to share the information, what I learned. So the leak was on the passenger side down below. So I actually went down underneath the car, tried to take a look. And even without taking any panel off, I was seeing the drip. It's a very, very minor drip. So in order to kind of do the further diagnosis, I need to remove this panel, this plastic, and then we can expose more room and then give a better visibility there. So if you don't know how this thing works, it took me a while before to figure it out. You just need to pop this up. It's not quite easy, so be right back. So I went and took a very small flathead, just kind of pop this up. Try to get away from the lighting. Then you can pull this up. Here's a little piece, you can see. And there are like only about a few. Here's one, here's another one. Then the other one that we need to take care of is, this is the panel that you can pop this up directly. That expose where the coolant is, and here's another piece. So I'm gonna remove those. Try not to break them. I hate to break those fasteners. So you can see this panel is actually tucked beneath this one. I didn't have to really remove this front panel. So I just slide this out. So you can slide this out. It's fairly easy. I'm gonna put this panel here. And the other thing we need to remove, and so what happened is the coolant was just dropping slightly below at about minimum, and usually they just kind of stop there. Again, it doesn't get really much worse, but you can definitely still see there's a coolant drop. So in order to get a better visibility down underneath there, I actually remove this air hose, and I'm sure you guys can find other videos to find how to remove this plastic piece. Usually I position it about 180 degrees from there. Let me see if I can remove this now. You can see here's a little plastic leg. It goes to this little, there's a little groove here. So you need to line up your little peg here. In order to remove it. So once that's done, then you can pop this out. But first we need to loosen this. So say I just loosen this. I pull this down, and you can see it hits this corner. So the way I do is I pivot up, and then I try to wiggle it out. Okay. And now let's take a look what happened. I'm going to try to zoom in. So the leak happens here. It was just dripping a little bit. Sorry about the focus. I can see a dab of coolant here, which then will roll down on the underside of this place, and then to the hose, eventually to the floor. And it turns out that I know that it was something I was using the mirror and trying to see what was going on. So let me try to lower my camera and perhaps we can see, I get a better view of that. So I'm lowering my camera right now towards the bottom. And like I say, the leak, originally I found the leak around this area. A very small dab of leaks coolant, and then it drops down. And the really, it's interesting part is it doesn't really leak when the system is fully pressurized and the engine is at the operating temperature. And it doesn't really leak either when the engine is like totally cool and the system is not pressurized. It only happens in between, like during the transition. Say you drove a little while and then the engine starts to cool down, the system starts to depressurize. That's when the leaks start, which suggests there's like what they call a cold temperature leak. And as I lower this place, you can start seeing this what they call a coolant hose flange that connects to the engine block. I already replaced it, so I'm not going to replace again. But you can see here's a E-torque nuts here. That is a fairly easy job. There's only one E-torque nut that you need to do. And it turns out this flange, this plastic piece, due to the thermal stress, eventually it was damaged and caused some small amount of leak from this area, from this flange, that against the engine block. This is the piece that that was actually took off from the car. This is what they call a coolant flange. As you can see here, a little bit close up, you can see the crack on that lip. And what happened is, I guess over time, due to thermal stressed, this piece now broke. It ended up I have to replace this piece. Originally I thought it was just the O-ring, and in fact you can order the O-ring by itself, but after I took this part off my car, I realized that this whole lip is missing. And in fact, this little piece was kind of stay in the car against the engine block, that I have to use a little pick to remove it. So that's pretty much it. I mean, it's very, very easy job to do. The only thing was that when it was first leaking, I was a little bit worried because there's some YouTube information about leaking on the rear part of the engine, and you gotta take the whole intake manifold off, and it was very costly, and there was like an exchange block on the back. I was worried about the problem was due to that issues. But I'm just very glad that it wasn't. It turns out fairly easy job. Once I replaced that coolant flange, it fixed the slow leak issues. I actually tried it. I refilled the coolant. You can see the coolant is in the right level, which is great. So, kind of see that. So, and now I'm not going to show you, but to put this thing back, basically just put the panel back, put your hose piece back, everything's just reverse. I hope this kind of helps you, because I wish there are more information on newer Cayenne, on their how to fix their problem, all that. It just because it costs a lot of money to fix them. Well, thank you very much. I hope this is helpful.